In the late 20th century, in the American West, Temple Grandin took a stand in history by being one of the first people with autism to have a successful business career and to educate others about how a person with autism thinks and sees the world. In the short term, Temple wrote articles for the Arizona newspaper about her work, and she started to become well known in the area. She also started giving speeches to people about autism. In the long run, she has become an advocate for people with disabilities and an inspiration to the autism community. Temple Grandin was born on August 29, 1947, in New England. Temple's mother knew there was something different about her first child. She didn't like to be hugged or held. Temple also didn't have an interest in adults' facial features, like other children. She loved to draw on the walls instead. Temple was diagnosed with autism when she was 2 years old. At that time, Temple's mother, Eustacia Cutler, was blamed for her daughter's condition. Eustacia worked hard to find the best care for her daughter. Temple didn't start talking until she was 4 years old. Before she learned how to talk, she would communicate by screaming and pointing. Doctors thought that there was no hope for her and that she should be institutionalized. Her mom refused to send her to an institution and instead hired a speech therapist. School in general was hard for Temple because she was anxious and oversensitive. When she heard the bell ring, she covered her ears. If her teacher wore perfume, the smell would make her distracted and she wouldn't understand what the teacher was writing on the blackboard. She was bullied for her tendency to blurt out random things. Temple was eventually sent to a boarding school and met Dr. Carlock, her science teacher. He was the only person at school that understood how smart she was and how she saw things differently. He gave her confidence and told her that her out-of-the-box thinking was a good thing. He helped her be a good student and she graduated second in her class in high school. It was very unusual at the time for a person with autism to go to college. When Temple went to college, she had a hard time living in a dorm and suffered bad panic attacks. Temple went to her aunt's ranch in Arizona for summer breaks. When did you first realize that you had a connection to animals?
Well, I got first really involved with animals when I was in high school. I was really into riding and horses when I was in high school. Horses basically were my life. Mm-hmm. And then I got introduced to cattle in high school. We had a small dairy there with about just a few cows, short-horn cows. And then I went out to my aunt's ranch when I was 15. And so I got involved in cattle because I got exposed to them. Students get interested in things they get exposed to.
This is where she realized that she loved animals and had a special relationship with them. She saw the cattle chute and how it calmed the cattle when they were getting their vaccinations. Temple thought that if it could calm cows down, it could calm her down too. She built her own squeeze machine, but her first college roommate threw it away. Temple's second roommate was very kind, and she and Temple became good friends. She didn't care if Temple had the squeeze machine. Temple wanted to conduct an experiment to see how the squeeze machine made other people feel. She tested the squeeze machine on other college students. After Temple graduated college, she went to grad school and worked to study cattle behavior. She got permission to work on the feedlots, but the men who worked there treated her badly because she was a woman. She had to dress up like a man just to get onto the feedlot, and the men put bull testicles on her car windshield. Temple wasn't scared. She went back to the feedlot to do her research and write articles for the Arizona newspaper. So what was more of an obstacle in your field, being a woman or being a person with autism?
Oh, being a woman was way worse.
Tell me more about that.
Tell me more about that.
And there's a scene in there where they put bull testicles on my vehicle. That actually happened.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
And what else?
What else about it?
Well, I just, being a woman was, people would say stuff to me like, I can't believe you have this much knowledge about cattle industry and you're a woman. I had guys say stuff like that to me. It got way better because when I started out in the 70s, no women worked with cattle in the feed yards. Now lots of women work in feed yards, lots and lots of them. In the 70s, no women worked airline pilots, and I see lots of women as airline pilots.
Yeah.
Soon people were paying her to design cattle chutes. Because of her autism, Temple Grandin was able to see what cattle saw, so she knew what they were sensitive to. She made sure that there were no shadows, clothing on walls, and chains hanging down. This helped because it didn't spook the cattle.
Well, I started out in the early 70s, just like I showed in the movie, where I'd get down the chute and see what the cattle were seeing. And I was one of the first people to notice that cattle noticed a lot of little things that we tend to not notice, like shadows and chains hanging down and coats on fences. Nobody thought to look at those things before.
She also put grooves in the ramp so that the cows would not slip into the water and drown. Her new design was amazing because it treated the animals humanely and saved money for the ranchers.
Okay, well, thinking in pictures in the first chapter, I talk about how I think in pictures. And that helped me with animals. It really helped me with animals. And because animals don't think in words. They think in images. They think in smells and touch sensations. That's how animals think.
Temple is a world-renowned autism spokesperson and a consultant to the livestock industry on animal behavior. She proves that having autism can be a positive thing and not just a negative thing. Because if her brain didn't work the way it did, she could not have created the new livestock designs. 80% of livestock facilities now use Temple Grandin's designs. She currently teaches animal science at Colorado State University. Temple now spends half of her time going around the world telling people about autism. She gives advice to kids on the autism spectrum and encourages them to get work skills and follow their dreams. She tells them that the world and scientists need their minds, and that gives them a lot of support.
And I think it's really important that, show people that, people with autism and ADHD and dyslexia and other things like that are really capable of getting out and doing things. Well, it's rewarding when somebody says to me, well, my son went to college because of one of your books. I want to see kids get out there and be successful. That's what I want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Temple Grandin is an example of a person who is different and able to think outside the box, and was able to go achieve great things. She has taken a stand for women and people with autism and has inspired people everywhere. She gives families affected by autism hope that kids with autism can go to school and be contributing members of society. Thank you.
Well, there were good people that helped me. My mother, from a very young age, always worked on developing my strengths. My ability in arts always encouraged from a very young age, and that's really important. Build on strengths.
If you could wave a magic wand and make your autism go away, would you?
No, I would not, because I like the logical way that I think.